to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. Suffocating, I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
Today, we are in the fourth session of the SME Next Orbit program. And our today's topic is creating innovation enablers within your organization. But before we start with today's session, I'd like to give a brief of what we discussed in our last session, which was on innovation models, how SMEs can innovate. The session was delivered by Dr. Kaustubh Dhargalkar. The entire session was primarily focused on building the innovation models around the user needs. So the focus of any business should be what the user needs. He discussed some of the traits that a business should look when they are trying to change their business model. So he started with a simple definition of innovation, which goes beyond physical products and fancy technology. So what he explained was the products can be simple, but we can have some innovation around the business model and have some new things into the picture which can benefit the entire business. Another important thing he discussed during the session was exploring and restructuring the supply chain. There are so many opportunities within our supply chain itself and how the businesses can leverage that part. So he discussed on that. And the last and final thing he discussed was creating a business model around existing consumer based needs. So many of the businesses have succeeded only because they every time went to their end consumer and just talked to them what they want, what they need, and kept on building up that. So these were some of the points that he discussed. And in conclusion, he just explained that the core of any business model should be the user needs, how the user needs can be solved using the technology. And if not even technology, there are so many possibilities in a business and wherein we can bring in innovations. So this was all about the last session. Today we are having with us Dr. Neeraj Sonalkar, and I would request Charvi to give an introduction of Sir.
Dr. Neeraj is the Executive Director of Human Innovation Design Research at Stanford University, where he works with cutting edge research teams on one hand and with a network of global corporations and venture capitalists on the other to put into practice new tools and methods for letting effortless innovation occur. He has worked to enable the organizational transformation of global companies into agile team of teams, coached 30 plus startups across 3 continents and various sectors to develop high performance teams, raise capital, and drive product growth. Co founded top rated courses on advanced design thinking and capital formation at Stanford University. Invented and marketed a patented data analytics tool for measuring creative team dynamics and augmenting high performance innovation teams. Co founded innovation centers in India and Nigeria to seek design thinking and grow unique innovation cultures into citywide ecosystems. Invited speaker at several executive gatherings and workshops in US, Europe, and Asia on innovation, design thinking, creative leadership, and organizational transformation. We welcome you, sir. I would like to request you to take forward the session.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Charvi. Hello, everyone. So let me start off by saying, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to see so many of you so late in the evening. So let me start by sharing my screen. So I'll give a short talk. I'll share a few slides, and then we'll do discussions. So let's just see. Oh, can I share my screen? Oh, I think it's disabled yet.
So you can share now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Where is maybe I'll do this. Very good. Okay. So let me put this in presenter mode. Very good. Great. So today what I'll talk about is some of my work in the past and which I'm currently doing on how do you create an innovation culture. I'm not going to talk about strategy. I'm not going to talk about technology. I'm going to talk more about the human side of things. How do we create a culture within an organization that can help an organization to consistently develop products and services and business models through which they can really create market breakthroughs. So much of what I'll discuss today is not in the context of SMEs. It's in the context of design work, design thinking. It's in the context of startups as well as corporations. And I'm actually looking forward to have a discussion with you to see how some of these principles or ideas can actually be used within your business. So I'm really looking forward to learn that from you. So let me start off, by saying what is innovation. I heard that from Faizab, that the previous speaker talked about this a while. I think I have a different perspective on innovation. So when I think about innovation for myself, I first think about breakthrough products. This was, the first Apple computer that was launched in 1976. And it was really innovative because it enabled people to do things they could not even think of was possible. So it really created a whole new industry in itself. So innovation is not just something that's incremental in nature, but it actually creates new paradigms in the market. This is one more innovation which I really like. This was developed by a team that I had honor of working with in Stanford, and they created infant warmer. They were working at the D school, and they were given the task of creating low-cost incubators for babies who are born premature. And in many developing countries, many of these babies die because these babies are born in rural areas. They don't have access to hospitals and neonatal intensive care units. So what this team did was create something which was low cost and which was highly effective and easy to distribute to the market. And they came up with an infant warmer. It's sort of like a sleeping bag or a blanket which warms the baby. And they launched a company, Embrace Global. It's operating now, I think, out of Bangalore. And it's a very well-known company. The third one you will be very familiar with is Uber. Uber was not a product innovation. It was mainly a service innovation. There were mobile phones and apps before Uber. There were cars before Uber. There were drivers before Uber. But what they did was to create a new reconfiguration of these elements that enabled people and to actually ride differently. It opened up a whole new market of ride sharing. And one more innovation on the financial space is Square, which was actually a smartphone-based hardware device which enabled you to swipe credit cards, and it opened up a whole new way for small businesses, for people who are just selling stuff on the street to now have access to card readers. So that was a great innovation, especially within US, that it opened up a whole new sector for card businesses. So innovation is actually, in my view, a development of a significantly novel product or service and its successful adoption into the market in such a way that the venture market ecosystem is radically altered. So you would see that, in my view, innovation needs to be something which is radical. It is not incremental. It is not jugaad. It is something that is done intentionally and mindfully, and it opens up whole new markets and whole new revenue opportunities. So innovation is not cost cutting. You can create measures to cut costs to increase margins, but I don't consider that as innovation in itself. So today we are going to focus on this type of innovation, radical innovation. One more key thing to note is that innovation is an outcome. You would know if you are innovative only when you get to the market and are actually successful. Till that time, it is not an process as such. Uh, so a few things, we all aspire for innovation. Is sort of a buzzword now. Everybody talks about innovation. Within a firm, we know innovation creates revenue growth. Within economies, it leads to new jobs. It leads to long-term economic growth. Within society, it creates hope and vitality. You hear these stories of role models and entrepreneurs and business leaders, and it creates a lot of hope. But still, innovation, though we all seek it, in various ways, corporations create innovation groups. There are a lot of methods. There are hundreds of consulting firms. Cities like to have incubators and accelerators. Anay was telling me there's 50 or so accelerators in Ahmedabad and surrounding regions. Governments like to create policies offering incentives to small businesses, entrepreneurs. Still, innovation is very rare. It is hard. And we'll look at why it is hard and what can we do to actually make it easier for us. One of the interesting diagrams or data that we have on why on how innovation is rare is this little graph, which actually comes from startup venture capital world. So on the y-axis here, you have it says number of CEOs, but that also means number of deals done by a venture capitalist. And on the x-axis, you have return on investment. And what it tells you is that 65% of deals which are done by VCs lose money. 65% of companies fail outright. They return less than the capital invested. The next 25 return 1 to 5x. The next 6 return 5 to 10x. And the top 4% return 10x or more returns. We really like to be in this green bracket. We really want to be in a 10x return. We want to create an innovative outcome, a company which is so successful that it becomes a market leader. But to do that is extremely hard. So what we have learned through our practice, through our research, through our working with various companies in various sectors across the venture field, the corporate field, is a few things. First of all, is innovation, the pursuit of it is what we call design, is not simply a matter of process. Just because you know a model doesn't mean you will be successful. It is not a matter of best practices. It's not a matter of copying other people or giving incentives. What we have learned is that doing design, being in the pursuit of innovation, demands an intrinsic character. There has to be a separate character of a person, a team, an organization that is taking this on. That actually is a character for what we call as wayfaring. Risk-taking, collaborating, deviating from norms, and willingness to learn from failure. And to actually build such a character, we need to take action at the cultural and the behavioral level. And this is the methodology that we call the nucleation of innovation cultures. So what is an innovation culture? There are many definitions for culture. The one I like is this one. A culture is a system, it's an integrated system of artifacts, narratives, rituals, practices, values, and beliefs, that amplify certain behaviors. So if I were to visit your company and just walk in to your premises, to your campus, to your building, what I look at, if I want to get a sense of what culture you have, is what are the artifacts? What what's actually, what kind of tools are people using? What's the kind of color of the walls? What's the atmosphere? What's hanging on the walls? If I go to your lunchroom or your break room, what's that room situated like? What's the physical nature of it? I will look at what stories people tell when they are on their breaks. What do they talk about? I look at what rituals you have to start the day, to end the day, what rituals you have at a quarterly level, annual level. How do you celebrate different festivals in India with your team? What kind of practices you have from a methodology viewpoint? How do you talk to your customers? At what frequency? I look at what values you espouse. Where do you put your resources? Values are not something that's put on the walls. We visit a lot of companies and we have these 4 values. We are customer centric. We are X, Y, Z. But really, that's not values. That's just some writing on the wall. Values is where you put your resources. That's what indicates your values. And then looking at your beliefs, what kind of beliefs you hold that you think will make you successful in the market. And a collective system of all of these, what we look at is that, this system, certain systems amplify certain behaviors. They enable the organization to be more risk-taking, to explore. Certain systems make it more efficient, let an organization exploit better rather than explore better. And there's no good or bad in such a thing, but you need to be aware of what culture you're building in your organization. So an innovation culture is a culture. So it is all the things which I discussed about. But it increases the probability of an innovative outcome, and it dampens the behaviors that lessen the probability of an innovation outcome. So we'll look at some of that. Before we go forward, I think we have a little video clip here. There is this very good documentary. I think you can find it on YouTube or Netflix or Amazon, and it's called Something Ventured. It's a documentary on the original venture capitalists. So the venture capital industry was started here in Silicon Valley, roughly around late 1950s, 1960s. And before that time, if a person wanted to start a business, they needed to rely on family, they needed to rely on banks, and that's all the resources they had. But here was a group of people, a group of financiers who figured out that they could actually back small businesses, they could actually back startups, and they could help create big companies and generate a lot of wealth. So this is a story about the beginnings of a familiar company. This is a story of Apple. So it's a few minutes long. It's not a very long video, but I'll play this video now. And I think before I need to share my computer sound and optimize the sharing for video clips. So let me do that. Okay. So I'll play this now, and I hope that you are able to see this. Oops, not playing yet. Oh, I think I need to play it here.
In 1976, the only people who believed in the personal computer were the geeks and nerds who gathered at homebrew computer clubs. At one such club, 21-year-old Steve Jobs had partnered with Steve Wozniak to create a circuit board kit they called the Apple I.
Sorry about that. Just a quick thing. Can you all hear the video?
Yes, sir, it is audible.
That's good. Okay, yeah, just wanted to check in on that. Let me just play it.
In 1976, the only people who believed in the personal computer were the geeks and nerds who gathered at homebrew computer clubs. At one such club, 21-year-old Steve Jobs had partnered with Steve Wozniak to create a circuit board kit they called the Apple I. Steve Jobs was working at Atari at the time, so the most obvious person to ask for startup money was his boss, Nolan Bushnell.
They needed an investment, and they offered me a third of the Apple computer for $50,000, and I said, gee, I don't think so. I could have owned a third of Apple Computer for $50,000. A big mistake. But I called Don Valentine, because Don had a high probability of seeing the opportunity.
So we had our meeting. I went to Steve's house and we talked, and I was convinced it was a big market just embryonically beginning. Steve was in his Fu Manchu look, and his question for me, tell me what I have to do to have you finance me. I said, we have to have someone in the company who has some sense of management and marketing and channels of distribution. He said, fine, send me 3 people. I sent him 3 candidates. One he didn't like, one didn't like him, and the third one was Mike Markkula. Mike Markkula worked for me at Fairchild before he went to Intel.
He called me up and said, there's 2 guys over in Los Altos that could really use your help, and you ought to go see them. I said, okay, because that's what I did on Mondays. I was retired. I think I was 32 and I retired from Intel. But one day a week, I would help people start companies and write business plans. And I did it for free, just for the interaction with bright people that had a lot of fire in their belly. So I went over and talked to the boys. The 2 of them did not make a good impression on people. They were bearded, they didn't smell good, they dressed funny, young, naive. But Woz had designed a really wonderful, wonderful computer. Technology that was really advanced. The problem was, you could walk down the street in 1976 and talk to 100 people and say, would you like a personal computer? And they go, well, what's that? And so I told them, I said I'd help them write a business plan. So I got to working on it. And I think, gosh, the opportunity here is just too great. The business plan said that $142,000, we could be cash flow positive in 9 months. And I came to the conclusion that we could build a Fortune 500 company in less than 5 years. I said I'd put up the money that was needed.
Not only did he write the check, Mike Markkula came out of retirement, becoming the president and CEO of Apple.
So this was a story of the beginning of Apple Computer. And as you can see on this slide here, the initial investment was, a few $100,000. The 2010 market value to $220 billion, and now it's more than $1 trillion. So that's a tremendous amount of wealth generation. We don't expect that all companies will become Apple in their growth trajectory, but really this story tells us a few things about a few behaviors that we need to pay attention to. First of all, people like Jobs and Wozniak, they exist in all cities. They exist in Ahmedabad, they exist in Mumbai, in Pune, in Delhi, everywhere. But they are deviants. They are people, who are not like the smart people we think walking down the street. In this case, Jobs and Wozniak, they were more like hippies. They did not take baths every day. They smelled bad. They dressed bad. Jobs did not wear shoes. It was all the signals that you would look at this and say, oh, that's the bum walking down the street. Why would you fund that person? So when Jobs went to Bushnell, who was Jobs' boss, he did not understand the value of it. He did not understand the value of Apple, the value of Jobs' idea. Still, Bushnell actually did not say, hey, I don't want to listen to you. Go away. He said, I don't understand what you're doing, but let me connect you to Don Valentine, who is actually my own financier. So Don Valentine was Bushnell's biggest supporter and financier. But here, Bushnell did not hesitate to recommend jobs to Don Valentine. A lot of times what we do is if we get a young fellow who does not smell good, whose idea we don't understand, we say, oh, there's nothing here. And we are very hesitant to open up our own network. But Bushnell did not hesitate. The third behavior was Don Valentine. Don Valentine was immensely successful. As a venture capitalist, he was a millionaire back then. Still, he did not call up jobs and say, hey, through his secretary that, Mr. Valentine wants to see you. When can you set up an appointment? Please come and see him in his office. Don actually went to Jobs' house himself. He drove his own car. He went to Jobs' house, went to his garage to really see what are these guys doing. He was curious and also interested in not showing off his status. That was an important behavior to understand, that if we want to encourage innovation, status has no role in it. The fourth thing is Mike Markkula. Mike Markkula, was a very successful man. He had retired by the time he was 32. He had made so much money by then through Intel. But he still helped youngsters. He helped them because he liked helping them. He did not help them. He did not go to them and say, okay, how much percentage will you give me? And only then, if you give me something, I'll write something for you. He just went because he liked interacting with young people. So he went to Jobs' house. He worked with him in his own garage, wrote the business plan. And when he found out that, oh my God, this is a great opportunity, he invested his own money and came out of retirement, became the CEO. The first CEO was of Apple was not Jobs, it was Mike Markkula. So we hear a lot about the entrepreneurs. We hear a lot of stories about the business leaders. But sometimes, it's the ecosystem that matters. It's what kind of environment you have set up, what kind of beliefs and culture you have set up that matters. And in order to make that point, we sometimes use this metaphor that you can look at these two distinct cultures. One culture is the culture of a farm. It's the culture of the plantation, which is like this. And the second is the culture of a rainforest. And the two cultures are very different, just as they look different. So within a plantation, it has its own set of rules, and a rainforest culture has its own set of rules. And these two rules are sometimes opposite, sometimes conflicting. And it's important that if we want to innovate, we need to go away from a plantation rule to a rainforest rule. So you can see on this slide some of these rules. Key thing to note here is that a plantation is not bad. It is actually very much needed. If you are running a successful business, very high likelihood that you're running a plantation, because a successful business, in order to scale up, needs a plantation. You need to excel. You need to be loyal. You need to work with those you can depend on. You need to have a competitive edge. You need to strive for perfection, and you need to return favors. That's the way the business world works. So the paradox is that now, if you want to innovate, you still need to be a rainforest at the same time. And the way to do that is to create a small group, a small corner within your organization. While the rest of your company is a plantation, this small group becomes the rainforest. And this small group can break rules and dream. They can open doors. They can trust first. They can seek fairness, experiment. They can, err, fail, and persist, and pay it forward. So the key challenge to being a successful innovation organization is to develop a culture which is plantation in the rest of the organization and rainforest in a small portion. So the key question then comes to us is, how could we create conditions for rainforest cultures in different parts of the world? And this is something that we have been working on throughout our work at Stanford Design Group, as well as the various centers we ran in many countries. So what you see on this slide here is the history of the Stanford Design Group, the group that I'm part of currently. And this was started off in 1960s, actually a bit earlier, late 1950s, with John Arnold and GSP. And throughout the following decades, we have worked with a number of different organizations within campus, outside Stanford, and we have worked with them on a variety of topics. A key thing to note in this slide is that while we have been very successful, we don't like just working with ourselves or within the group. We like partnering with people. So this collaborative history is what shows up in this slide deck. That everything that the group has done is with somebody, with fine arts, with computer science, industry partners, with the Graduate School of Business, with engineering, with various countries across the world, with medicine, and so on and so forth. So the value of partnership. The second thing is this process. We actually call this model the hunting model of innovation. And this is, I had used the word before in one of the previous slides of wayfaring. And this is what wayfaring is that let's say you are here in the beginning, you are at this point A, this is where your company is at. And you have an idea, you have a thought that, okay, we need to create a new product, a new service, a new kind of a business model, which is B here. Once you have that thought, somebody comes to you, or it's your own thinking, it's your team's thinking, it doesn't matter really. But the key is that the path from A to B is not a straight line. It's not that you write a very shiny, refined business plan and you simply execute and you go from A to B. The key thing is that as you start walking towards B, you will discover new information. You will fail. You will discover your customers' preferences are different than what you thought they were. And you need to change direction. So you need to do this kind of, you need to go from here to here, and you test new things, you test your hypotheses, your products, and you might discover once again new things, you would fail again. You learn from that, you change your direction once more, and once more, and once more. And after a lot of these changes and learnings, and this kind of a zigzag moving around, you actually come to the final, delivery or the idea which actually works in the market, which is B prime, prime, prime. It's not your original thought, what you thought would work. It's something new. It's something you have discovered. And that is a really big idea. So what makes innovation hard is that what we learn in business schools is how to actually think about B and execute from A to B. What innovation requires is this kind of a zigzag movement, which has a lot of failures, and changing of directions is what we call as a pivot. And sometimes you actually lose money, you lose a lot of things, you are taking on tremendous risk. And the key thing is this all worthwhile? The key thing is, how do you sustain yourself throughout this zigzag pathway and create an idea which is big enough for you to recover all that you have given while you are discovering it? And then once you have discovered it, how do you now take it back to market and you transport it and become successful? So this is what we call the hunter model. Over the past 3 decades, we have been looking at similar models, activities at the Stanford Design Group and the organization that I'm part of, the Center for Design Research, which has resulted in 30 plus dissertations, which has resulted in a lot of courses. We call it as a body of behaviors. One of the key things why we think behaviors are important, because having knowledge is not sufficient. Just because you came to this seminar or this symposium and you heard me talk doesn't mean that you will be successful. You will know things, but to do something, it actually takes a different form of courage. And that requires practice, that requires behaviors. We have also worked in Ahmedabad very actively with Ahmedabad University, and we have worked with organizations in Lagos as well as many other countries since then to actually put in place some of these behaviors. And the next slide actually goes a bit deep into research. So some of the work we do is to figure out, how do certain organizations behave differently? Why are they successful? And we synthesize our research into analytical findings. We actually create scientific research. What you see on this slide here is a notational system. So here, this kind of symbols, this is a notation we came up with to understand and identify what makes certain teams really good at designing, what makes them good at developing new products and services and business models. So I'll share with you one such team video. This is a video of a small team that we video recorded within our research lab. And this team was working on a children's startup. They were doing a startup for children's toys. And this is a small snippet of their conversation. And as this conversation will play out, as this video will play out, you will see some of these symbols come down in correspondence with what they're saying. And this will give you some idea of how we convert something which is like a conversation into a scientific representation. So let me play this video now.
Could we create something that keeps them
together?
Yeah, so that kids during a car trip, they wouldn't get bored.
That they could do something like Legos, but well, anytime you're dealing with pieces, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So you have to eliminate the whole premise of Lego to make it work.
But to have something like a nest, because it's so boring.
Design like a lab kit so you can play with your Legos?
Yeah, a lab, what did you say? A lab kit.
Yeah, so...
And it could be a lab kid.
So you have your own personal lab kit, and this is your sandbox of Legos.
Let's use that.
Oh, a Lego sandbox.
I think that's Lego sandbox.
So here, this team came up with this concept of a Lego sandbox, which was a concept for a toy. And the key thing to note here is that this concept was not developed by just one person. Excuse me. It actually came up through the conversation between the team members. And what we're trying to do here is to understand what is the quality of this conversation. And, what does a high quality conversation look like? So if you were to now go to your team and have conversations with your team members, with your employees, they have conversations with themselves. What is the quality of those conversations? Are the conversations of a sufficiently high quality that you can actually create new ideas and new products? Or is the quality not so great? In which case it's really difficult to develop a good culture. So the notation that I'm talking about, the interaction dynamics notation, I'll just share very briefly what the various symbols are. A key part of the notation is that it's derived from this field of semiotics, which is a field of linguistics and philosophy, actually. And in semiotics, there is this theory, which is called the force dynamics theory, which says that the words we use when we write, when we talk with people, these words carry forces. So if I were to say, let's go for a walk, and somebody who I'm talking to says, no, it's raining, let's not do that, I actually feel obstructed. I feel a block. But I can choose to do something with it. I can choose to persist and overcome this block and say we can take an umbrella, so let's still go for a walk. Or I can choose to accept the block and suggest an alternative, like let's watch a movie instead. So in these conversations, you have these kind of symbols or actions, moving, blocking, overcoming, deflecting. And then if you look at other kind of actions which are going on through conversations, I spent some time in the field of improvisational drama. So this is drama or theater where you don't have a script. As a group of actors, you go on stage directly without a script and start making up a story. You start acting out a play and you go where the play takes you. And we have learned a certain set of behaviors which are important for being successful in doing that. One of these behaviors is to do a yes and. If somebody tells you something, let's go for a walk, you say yes, and let's go and do something more than just a walk. So you build on somebody's ideas, so which is a yes, and you support them, you encourage them, you ask questions, you inject humor. Humor is actually important because it helps a team become more playful. It breaks the tension of the current reality. Besides that, we have also seen certain behaviors like ignored and silence and ambiguous in design teams and startup teams. So this forms the symbol set of the notation. And we look at the responses that people give in conversations to characterize whether something is a move, a block. So through doing this, we capture the principal dynamics of team interaction, and we convert conversations into big data. So when we work with companies, whether they are startups or design teams in big companies or small and medium businesses, we look at conversations and we convert those conversations using this notation into a symbolic sequence, which we can then analyze for patterns. So this is a pattern of a conversation, and the red parts you see here are new ideas coming up in the conversation. So we look at which conversations lead to ideas, and we look at the quality of ideas. One of the things we saw when we were looking at various teams in various companies is that teams actually fluctuate between two different states. One is a state of problem solving. This is a state where logic and reasoning is dominant. And a lot of times when we go to school, when we go to universities and business schools, we learn problem solving. A lot of times in businesses, when we deal with difficulties, we do problem solving. We use logic and reasoning to solve problems. And this is the domain of knowledge. What we saw that in great innovation cultures and teams, there is a second state, the state of concept. This is a state of possibility and imagination. This is where you ask questions, what if this were to happen? How about if we do something different? Maybe we can try this thing. So you are in the state of possibility, and good teams are teams that go back and forth between these two states. So this is something that we have seen quite often, is that what we require in an innovation culture is an ability to go back and forth between a state of knowledge and concept. So if you were to go back to your companies tomorrow or next week and really hear the conversations which are going on, can you detect whether you can see your teams, your employees going back and forth between the knowledge state and concept state? How can you encourage that? How can you encourage people to use possibility and imagination, even if there is no, there is no straightforward path to success? So this is something that we have seen is important. And this is what you see here between the red and the black, that people fluctuate. The second thing we have seen is the role of argumentation or debate. The teams which have a debating culture actually are more successful in coming up with products which have a greater utility, which are more successful in the market. So one more thing to do within your teams and companies is to encourage people to have a debate and to really discuss, why some things will work or some things will not work. So this is also something that we have seen. And the way we use these findings within our research is actually to give feedback to teams. So we come to a team, we do this notation, we show the notation back to the team, excuse me, and then we coach them. We coach them to improve their performance. So based on this research and the models that we have shared, we have developed a methodology, which I'll talk about, for nucleating innovation cultures. So I'll skip a few slides, which are a bit technical in nature. I'll actually go more to the direct part, which I want to share with you, is the storytelling. So you get a sense of the application first. excuse me, a lot of text and a lot of writing, and not a lot of pictures. So I quickly want to go to, so these two cases, I want to talk about these two cases first. So we developed this methodology of developing an innovation culture, through doing these two centers. One was in the city of Abeokuta, which is about 2 hours drive outside of Lagos in Nigeria. And then the second center was in Ahmedabad, which is called Venture Studio. So the first case study was this of building behavioral infrastructure. And the project objective was to see, could we actually go to a different culture, which we don't know, and establish a nucleus. So a nucleus is a beginning of a new culture within that region. A nucleus can be, an organizational setting you have, like an office, a building, or it can be your entire company. But the key thing is to establish a nucleus where new behaviors, where this kind of a rainforest can grow. So while the rest of the organization is a plantation, the nucleus is the rainforest. So what we did was we worked with a local foundation there, an entrepreneurship foundation called the Fate Foundation, to actually completely design from ground up a new campus called the Institute for Venture Design. And this was supposed to be a creative environment for young entrepreneurs, for young business leaders like yourself to come in and to explore new concepts and new ideas and new products, and to network, to work with financiers and venture capitalists, and to work with teams. So you see some of the people here. During our morning ritual, we do a morning check-in. And we created a 6-month program, which actually enabled new transformative behaviors in these teams. And the key outcomes of this program were, we worked with 16 entrepreneurs, started 6 ventures spanning multiple domains: automotive, construction, education, information technology. This program ran just for the first year before we actually ran out of funding, because our chief financier, he ran to become the vice president of the country. So he diverted his focus and his finances. But what we were successful in doing in that very short period of time was to build the nucleus, was to prototype and create a new innovation culture, which significantly transformed the 16 people that we worked with. And many of these entrepreneurs are still doing their businesses and are quite successful. The second case study, which was a follow-on to the first one, was the Venture Studio model we did in Ahmedabad. So we worked with Ahmedabad University for, I think, a period of 4 to 5 years. Or actually, if you think of the setup, it was 6 years, maybe from 2010 to 2016, more or less. And we helped design this new campus, a physical space we call Venture Studio. We worked with an investment group from Mumbai. We brought in our methodologies, our culture building methods, models. We worked with young entrepreneurs, early to mid-career. We worked with a local network of universities, engineering, business, design front, to actually launch new companies, to launch new ventures. These were not all technology ventures. They were service ventures. They were hardware ventures. We built a community of investors to support the ventures. But the most important thing for us from the Stanford viewpoint was to actually create knowledge in action, to really try out new behaviors and new methods and practices and see what's working and what's not working, and keep on tweaking it and changing it. And really the most satisfactory outcome for me personally was a community of ecosystem leaders, these entrepreneurs who go on to become leaders in the business community and who learn to give back and guide the rest of the community. So our project objective here was to build this nucleus, and as well as to understand, what kind of culture you need to build, which is responsive to local beliefs and values, but also nurtures intensive, creative, and collaborative behaviors. So just give you a few slides on what Venture Studio was like. So this was a brief, this is a photograph of the campus. This was an old school, actually, a primary school that Ahmedabad University had, which we redesigned into more of an accelerator incubation space. The key change we did, from my viewpoint, was not so much the physical restructuring, but the social restructuring. So we worked with local coaches to train new interaction patterns, such as how do you respond to novel ideas? If you're a young employee who is like Jobs, who is not very well dressed, not very well educated, he comes to you and says, hey, I have this new idea. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that in such a way that, that idea develops further for you to understand the risk implications, for you to understand the reward possibilities? And a key part of that we realized was to lower formality, to reduce status differences, to see new innovative beliefs and behaviors. We developed a little lab where entrepreneurs could go in and try and build out new things without much red tape. So they could do some hands-on work and develop some things that they could test in the market. We worked with the local ecosystem, the ecosystem leaders. We brought in leaders from US as well as different countries, to do workshops, and it fostered this new way of thinking and collaborating. We had a series of conferences that we ran where we brought in, speakers and thought leaders across disciplines: design thinking, ecosystem building, investing, market design. And most importantly, it's also that we created a global network of VCs, of banks, of corporations to accelerate access to global markets. A key part of entrepreneurship is that a lot of countries, including India, we make a lot of noise about number of entrepreneurs. We make a lot of noise about number of startups and businesses that have been launched. For me, that's great, fantastic. But not sufficient. It's important to understand how will a business succeed. It's not just sufficient to launch it. It is important to make it successful. And for that purpose, it needs to have access to market, both for its products as well as for itself. Sometimes a successful outcome is that you start a new business. Maybe it's a side business to your family business, and you sell it. You sell it for a big profit. So who do you sell your business to? How do you create this market for selling not just products and services, but also your businesses? So that becomes what we did here by actually connecting these very big players across the world. So now if we had a startup company in Ahmedabad, we can actually sell it to a business in Tokyo or a business in Silicon Valley or Canada. So some of the key outcomes, we had a very healthy community of entrepreneurs and ventures and investors. We had some successful financial outcomes. But the key thing for me personally was this transformative environment, this kind of an innovation culture, which attracted, what we are calling here as deviants. These were people like Jobs and Wozniak. These were people who were not necessarily top in their academic activities, who were thinkers, who made things, who broke rules, and who society said, I don't think much will come from that person. But it's these deviants that we need to encourage to take on different paths. So this is what we realized throughout our experiment. So let me pause here. It's 8 o'clock, it's 60 minutes. So let me stop my speaking and maybe ask this question. From what I have shared so far, And it's been a number of little things across different domains. How much of it is applicable to your business? How much of it is applicable to small and medium businesses? So what I would like to encourage is to maybe have a breakout session where we all break out into small groups and have a conversation as to how might you apply some of the things you heard from me, some of the things you saw on the slides, and also maybe think about from your company standpoint, what are some of the barriers to applying these things that you see? And maybe we can do this breakout for about 15-20 minutes, and then we can all come back and have a discussion on what you have talked about.
streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. With crimson secrets and forbidden bliss, can't stay still, don't stop that thrill. My bones crave your skin, temptation within, mistakes ignite the silence. Nightmares creep while you and me This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
joined IIC and Fezia and a lot of good staff. We are enjoying more like a innovation culture, but somehow like I started with the soil fertility. I thought of let me work on some innovative technology, but I spent a lot of time. Ultimately, what you told, I failed to really reach to the market. Maybe I may not be good at that, or my thinking process maybe just focus on the innovation and the science, and not for the business aspect of it. And that is leading us in more like a suffocation, where I'm not able to move further. So stuck.
Yeah. I think this is something which I can empathize with. I'm also coming from a background where I'm not really good at selling things, which I've noticed that there are so many people who are better. And the key thing what I found is, how do we form a good team? So if you are good at one aspect, how can you form a team member? How can you find a team member who you can trust? Who is good at the business side, the selling side?
So maybe with
I think what I suggest is let's go down to each group, maybe by their room numbers, and here, if one of you or two of you can give a highlight of your conversation, and feel free to speak in Hindi. So that's all fine too. Yeah. So shall we go to room one? Who was part of room one?
Any participant from room one?
Okay, I don't exactly remember my room, but since nobody is speaking up, probably I was room number one. So.
Yeah, thank you, Hassan. Please continue.
Yes. So yeah, what do you want to know from me? Yes.
Can you just give a brief summary of your conversation? What were the main points? So on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, we first introduced ourselves to each other. I met so basically one was a PDPU student and another two people were entrepreneurs like me. Very interesting companies doing very interesting things. Yes. So the communication में सबके हर स्टार्टअप्स के अपने कुछ ना कुछ challenges है. कोई product market fit की तरफ बढ़ रहा है, कोई अभी भी इनोवेशंस में है, कुछ स्टूडेंट्स को आई वाज सरप्राइज कि टेक्नोलॉजी स्टूडेंट्स होने के बावजूद टेक्नोलॉजी की बेसिक नॉलेज भी उनको नहीं है. सो ये काफी शॉकिंग कॉन्वर्सेशन था मेरे लिए. एनीवे, सो यस, एक कोई एंटरप्रेन्योर थे, वो ये कह रहे थे कि हम इनोवेशन कल्चर पूरी कंपनी में कैसे ले आए. तो ओके, मे बी शायद नीरज जी बेहतर इसको आंसर कर पाएंगे, बट मैंने उस टाइम पे ब्रीफ आंसर उनको ये दिया था लिमिटेड अपनी नॉलेज के साथ कि इफ यू आर ना, आपकी 7 कंपनी की या 4 लोगों की या 2 लोगों का छोटा सा स्टार्टअप है, आप नहीं कर सकते कि हर इंसान कोई विजनरी होगा या इनोवेशन करेगा. जिस इनोवेटर शायद कोई एक हो सकता है. सेकंड आदमी सेल्स में एक्सपर्ट है, वो सेल्स करेगा. थर्ड आदमी कोडर है, वो सिर्फ कोड राइट करेगा. फोर्थ इंसान प्रॉब्ली कुछ और करेगा, समथिंग लाइक दैट.
राइट.
दैट्स एक टीम वर्क किसी तरीके से था. हर इंसान सिर्फ इनोवेशन और थिंकिंग और ब्रेन वर्क में लगा, तो लेग वर्क कौन करने वाला है.
राइट.
ये मेरा लिमिटेड आंसर था, शायद मैं गलत हो सकता हूँ. एंड नीरज जी, एक पर्सनल क्वेश्चन मेरा है आपसे. बिसाइड्स पीडीपीयू मैं काफी और इंक्यूबेटर जैसे कि वाई कॉम्बिनेटर हो गए, क्रिएटिव डिस्ट्रक्शन लैब्स हो गया कनाडा का,
राइट.
इनके सेशंस अटेंड करता रहता हूँ. तो सो वहाँ पे मैंने एक कॉन्फ्रेंस में सुना था कि फर्स्ट 20 पीपल इन योर कंपनी और फर्स्ट 100 पीपल, आई डोंट एग्जैक्टली रिमेम्बर द नंबर, so they just shape the culture and the psychology of your entire company. तो जैसे पहले 20 लोग होंगे कंपनी में, वो कंपनी फिर बाद में जब 5000 लोगों की होगी या एमएनसी बन जाएगी 100 कंट्रीज में, वो कंपनी फिर वैसे ही ऑपरेट करेगी. सो हम despite knowing the fact that everybody cannot innovate, team needs different kind of people to do different things, but हम some out of the box thinkers कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करें, कैसे अट्रैक्ट करें, और वो और नहीं है तो क्या डू यू फील कि आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स थिंकिंग किसी को सिखाई जा सकती है, या इट्स जस्ट गॉड गिफ्ट, किसी के पास है तो है, जिसके पास नहीं है तो नहीं है. तो वो पहले 20 एम्प्लॉयज जो हमारे हैं या पहले 20 लोगों की जो टीम है, वो आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स थिंकर कैसे हम मैनेज कर सकते हैं. दैट्स माय क्वेश्चन.
नीरज सर, मैं भावेश हूँ और मैं भी ग्रुप 1 में था एहसान भाई के साथ, राइट. तो मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है आपसे. स्टार्टअप को सक्सेसफुल होने के लिए टाइम और टीम दोनों बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, राइट. कौन से टाइम पे वो स्टार्टअप आ रहा है और क्या टीम के साथ वो लोग एग्जीक्यूट कर रहे हैं, वो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट रहता है, ठीक है. तो अगर मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है कि ये डिसाइड करना बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है कि टीम को कैसे हायर किया जाए टाइमली मैनर पे, राइट. तो आप कुछ इसके बारे में कुछ टिप्स दे सकते हैं या कुछ इनसाइट्स इफ यू कैन शेयर विद अस.
Yeah, certainly. So both are great questions, I think. So a few thoughts, that come to my mind. So first of all is that I would not try. So if you're running your business, I would not try to make it fully innovative. The innovation culture, we hear a lot of things about the whole company should be innovative, the whole company should think like that. And that's a great sentiment, but it's not very practical, very frankly. So जैसे आपने कहा एहसान भाई, कि how do we identify a small group within the company who really has the tendency to do that by itself without you telling them to do so as the boss. I think that's important, that the motivation has to be intrinsic. So to that aspect, there are a few things that could be done to identify such people, to identify the out of the box thinkers. The one thing is to maybe create some kind of a project or some kind of a challenge that you give to your employees, associates, partners, and really see which of them are coming up with novel solutions. This kind of a problem-solving challenges. Maybe they are not very big. Maybe they just take some time from 1 week or 2 weeks, and you encourage them to participate. Give them some incentives. See if they come up with really good solutions. And if they have that kind of attitude of coming up with solutions, the solution doesn't matter so much as their attitude. And then if you do find such people, you can then give them a little more time. You can allocate some of their time to explore, to come up with innovative products, services, or business models. So that's one approach. One more approach is to use some kind of personality or cognitive style tools. So there was one tool which actually I really like. I'm just trying to find it. See if I can actually share with you what that looks like. But there are a number of tools which give you some sense of who these people are. And who we all are, actually. So 5 dynamics, I can just see. So there is, I'm just sharing my screen now. Let me just see if I can do that. Yeah. How do I show all windows? Inbox, 5 dynamics. Okay. So this is, for example, one tool. It's called 5 dynamics. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, but you need to put it in the presentation mode.
Yes. Yeah. Is this better? So this is a presentation mode. It's a screenshot which I took. So that's why you see the taskbar also.
All right.
But this actually tool gives, it doesn't take a lot of time. There is some cost to actually giving it. But by doing this, you get to see how each person within your team, what are they really effortless at? And it's on 4 dimensions. One is explore. So the explore things, people actually think of new ideas, of possibilities. The second dimension is excite. So even if you think of new ideas, you need somebody to excite your customers, to excite your vendors, to excite your management team, to say, hey, this is great, this is wonderful, this is what's going to work. So the excite people are very good at storytelling, are very good at persuading, are very good at selling. You need somebody who is good at examine, who will analyze, who will come with critical thinking. And then lastly, you need somebody who's good at execute, who will execute the plans, really implement things. And a balanced team is a team that each person has at least one of these in a effortless way. What we see that, some of us are effortless in one dimension and the rest of the dimension are more deliberate. So we need to put in a lot of work to do that well. So this is actually my graph. So I am effortless in explore and execute, but I am deliberate in excite and examine. So if you give me just some project, I am very good at exploring, just going off, just thinking of possibilities, concepts, and then working on to make it happen. I am not good at exciting people or to selling things or examining things very deeply. I can do those things, but it takes work. So tools like that actually are a very practical way of saying, okay, let's use this tool, figure out which of your team members are good at explore and different dimensions, put them into a little group, keep them aside a bit, create that rainforest culture within your company, just within this small group, not the whole company. Actually, making your whole company a rainforest is extremely risky and dangerous. So good to do it in a small group and then see if that yields some benefits. The other way is actually to partner with these organizations, just as I think Bhavesh Bhai, you were saying about these accelerators, incubators. Even within Ahmedabad, you have universities. Partnering with them to farm out some of the high risk concepts where the company is not taking risk. You are giving incentives, small amounts to your partners so that they can take the risk and explore because they have the capacity to do so. And by doing that, you are trying out a few different things. Some of them work out. If they work out, then you bring it back into your company. Does that work? Does that help?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Neeraj, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to take a team from a rainforest into a plantation and back to a rainforest?
You mean
for
the
a short
same
period
team?
of time? Yes.
It is very difficult. I think it is very difficult to do that. I think generally what we have seen is that, each of us has a tendency and we have grown up in different environments. So for example, my tendency is to be in a rainforest. That's my natural thing. If you put me in a plantation, I get very uneasy. I can work there, but that's not the my best self. So that's the thing, is that putting the same team in both places would be difficult. What I would recommend is to actually identify people who actually naturally would work well in either setting. And then actually you become the leader who is able to be at the boundary between the two. Because as a business leader, you need to speak to the rainforest team and understand their concepts. And you need to speak to the plantation team and really scale up. So that's the reason why, just having a rainforest is not sufficient, because you may come up with great ideas, but scaling up becomes hard. And just having a plantation is also not sufficient, because you would be great at scaling up, but the seed for innovation then would be missing.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. That's great. Shall we go to room 2 so we can, make sure everybody has a chance?
Yeah, hello. Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, myself, Hartaj, and I'm from room 2. So it was a very fruitful discussion over here, sir. And we have discussed some points which I would like to say. First of all, sir, there should be individual role distribution in each and every startup to everyone. Because as tasks are very, very much and team members are very low. So each and everyone should do their work very honestly. So this is the first point which we have been looking for. Secondly, sir, each and every startup should have a mentoring or a board of advisor. As many startups are started by some youth or some students which are not having many industrial guidelines or proper knowledge of thing, but they have just one vision. So to follow that vision with the help of mentoring or board of advisor, they can achieve that.
Yeah.
Another thing is, as you said, communication between each and everyone. So there should be fruitful communication between each and every team member, also to the staff member, to gather the ideas and suggestions from each and everyone, which will be very helpful for growing the business and a startup. One of the thing is also that each and everything is possible. Each and every standards can be followed. Each and every strategy can work, but only if they are implemented from initial stages. If the core team has implemented those ideas and strategies, then each and every startup can grow very wisely. So these are the points which we all have summarized. And
got it. Yeah, I think good points. I think what stood out to me was this board of advisors. I think that's something that I have not talked about, but that's very important. Really getting outside help. I think the way I think of it is like driving a car. That you need your rear view mirrors to really understand things that you cannot see otherwise. Each company needs this rear view mirror to have people who can cover the blind spots. And sometimes it's important to surround yourself with good advisors. Bad advisors can really be very make fatal mistakes from a business viewpoint. So that's important. So good points. What about room 3?
Hello, sir. Milan here. So I was in team 3. So we initially discussed about the particular startup, what they are into, what they are making, and how the session was fruitful for them.
Okay.
So I think we have one microcontroller manufacturer with us, one nanomaterial innovators that are designing the hot suits for the Indian armies.
Yeah.
And we were there. We are in the electric motor manufacturing for the drones and electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So we have discussed like how the two topics of the session. One is the plantation and the rainforest. So who are lacking in which segment? Or second thing we discussed was do we have the environment of discussion in the startup or in the company or not?
Yeah.
So from our perspective, we'll start discussion environment in our startup because till date it's not there. So again, it's a fruitful insight being the founder of the company. It should be there. But again, for that, I have a question, Neeraj, to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes this discussing environment will create some kind of rainforesting or increase the rainforest environment in the company. What do you think on that? If some employees or interns share some point of view on particular development or the innovation, not pursue that segment, then it will create a.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Milan. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, I think you broke.
In this discussing environment, there might be a post.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Continue.
Okay. It happening again, or am I audible?
A little bit. I think what I heard was that you're thinking about having a discussion environment which might create a rainforest. But I'm sensing that you're saying that a few employees, if they suggest something which is not acted on, they might be disappointed. Is that right?
Yes, it is. So I just want to know what should be the frequency of this discussion.
Yeah, so different companies do it differently. I think some of the technology companies like Google, they have town halls. And they kept up having these weekly town halls. Every Friday they had town halls till they actually grew very large. I'm not sure if they still do it. But the town halls were an opportunity to take up a topic, for the leadership, including the CEO, to be there and have a discussion. I think one of the things you could do is to set up some rules where you say that, some of these discussions are to surface ideas. There is no expectation that these ideas actually will be acted on necessarily, because the action needs to follow, some level of scrutiny, right? So if you can document some of these ideas and maybe follow up with some of the people who you feel are promising, and then that sets up a separate one-on-one conversation or one-on-team conversation. That's actually one way to do that. The second thing is, just having a discussion might not be sufficient. It's this, how do you facilitate the discussion? Sometimes I have seen that, as in Indians, we can be very argumentative. We love having arguments where each of us wants to be right. And that doesn't help the company very seriously. We need discussions where we have a question and we are each probing that question to figure out what's behind this particular phenomenon. So let's say, if you want to introduce a new product to your customers, what makes us think that this product will work, or what makes us think this product will fail? Things like that, where it's not about personal opinions and values, but we are probing something much deeper for the company, I think. Yeah. So I also had, there was one question from Vinay on chat. Vinay, can you please repeat that for everybody's sake?
Hello.
Hi. Yes.
Hi, sir. So actually, I had this one question that in the initial stage of any venture, what is more important according to you, sir? Is it profitability or is it scale? Like, should we focus on profitability while testing our product, or should we actually focus on scale when we are actually trying to achieve network effects and where we actually build that network?
Yeah. Very good question. So your voice was breaking up a bit, but still, since I have it on chat as well, I think profitability or scale, which is more important in the initial phases. The way I think of a startup, especially, is that its main purpose is to find a good business model. That's what a startup is. Once you have found a business model, you stop being a startup and you start being a grown-up company. A big part of the business model is four things. The first one is, how can you delight your customers? The second one is, what does it cost you to deliver this customer delight? The third one then becomes, how would you deliver it? What's your mechanism? And the fourth one is, how would you scale it up? So what I would recommend is, in the initial phases, focus on the first one. What will delight your customer? That is perhaps the most important thing. Even if there is no profitability yet or scalability, customer delight becomes the crucial part. Because if you discover it, then you can figure out, okay, if this is my customer delight, how can I manufacture it for less? How can I service it for less? How can I partner with somebody to deliver it? And that gets to the questions of both profitability as well as scalability. But if the customer delight is not understood well, then there is a very high risk that you would scale up the wrong thing. And while that may be successful, you will still make money. You would still leave a lot of value on the table. Does that help?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, sir. So that's a very interesting insight, sir. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Vinay. So since we have not much time, let's move to the last room. I think room 4. Anyone from room 4?
Yes, sir. Hi, it is Sudhir.
Hello, Sudhir. Yeah.
So, sir, we also had a great discussion in our room. Like two of we are from the same batch of startup, and we also had introduction with 3 of IIC members, and one of the upcoming new startup.
Yeah.
And we mostly had discussion of our introduction and upcoming what we are going to do in the upcoming time.
Yeah.
And I get to know that one of is going to launch his his new product of bio something, and second one is in the automobile manufacturing type of things.
Yeah.
So that the new upcoming startup, in that thing which I related from this session was this new boy that new guy which is doing his startup has done some great thing. He has hired some people along with their jobs, which generally people don't think. Some case, what happens people ask for peoples or consultants or some experts to join their startup or join their venture or join their SME by leaving something what they are already doing.
Interesting.
So that there is a cycle. If a person is doing two things, he might be more focused on the on the venture on the thing which is giving him continuous revenue. So he will not focus on the second thing. So there is some kind of like thought at the back of the mind. So that is what we had discussion. He has hired like 4 of the peoples from like expert as an expert in his team, and like whatever the values he might be giving, and he somehow managed all those peoples to give their time and at the needed time, whenever he is needed, they give their opinions and time, and he get his work, and he is telling that like he is going good. So I found it more convincible for like from like relating with this like session. And like for like San Bhai, I might in my personal opinion, I can say like that out of the box thinking can be harvested on my personal thinking, because like initially if I see my startup, initially we were not on the expert side. Okay, so but we tried out more things in a short time that give us like that expertise thing. Like we failed in multiple things, then we go get to know what exactly we had to do. So that gives you that out of the box thinking, cutting edge. Like you can get the people who are more enthusiastic and who are like short tempered, I can say. It can be the best word, because who don't listen up or don't wait for the call that okay, I get in this mind, I tried it, I failed or succeeded, that will be second option. So that can be, if you had this kind of people in your organization, so you can guide them or you can make them out of the box thinkers.
Very good point. Yes,
I would like request like, or I would like also have like other point of view, like which my team members are discussed if they want.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sudhir. Anyone wants to jump in from team 4 or room 4, or we move forward?
Sir, I guess we can move forward.
Yeah, good. Okay. So we are nearing the end, right? We have 3 minutes.
So I have a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So yeah, how do I find my own Mike Marcola?
That's a very good question. Yes. So there is no one, answer which can guarantee you a Mike Marcola, I think. I think what we recommend is, how do you surround yourself with the right kind of relationships? Maybe that's the kind of a broader response to that. Some of the things that is to figure out, within your local ecosystem, how can you network with some of the top minds, the top investors? You can, go to some of these events or, accelerators, incubators, even companies. You can look through your LinkedIn profiles. I'm not sure how much LinkedIn is used there, but here we use it quite a bit, to really figure out who am I connected to, and seeking connections. But really building that relationship network becomes really critical. And one more thing to that point is not just to build a network within your business domain, but also outside of it. So complementary domains. And it's very interesting to find, that you might find your Mike Marcolas in a domain which is different than you are in. But so I'm sorry that it's still a very generic answer to your specific question. But that's what we do is, build networks, talk to people. And one more thing to that point is to be a little more direct in the networks, in the conversations. Some of the things which I really took away from this video, which I shared about the beginning of Apple, was the very direct question that Steve Jobs had to Don Valentine when he said, "What do I need to do for you to finance me?" he did not beat around the bush, or just say, okay, let's have some chai first and we'll talk a bit about our families and, about politics, and then we'll get to the real question. It was just very direct and honest question. And to build networks where that kind of directness and honesty is valued is important.
All right, Neeraj. So thanks for the answer. Can you elaborate a little more about yourself? Your incubator in India, what exactly do you do?
Yes, certainly. I'll be happy to do that. I think I'm just very also conscious of time. How are we, Faizia? Is it okay for me to
Sir, it's okay. Yes, we can take 2-3 minutes. It's fine.
Okay, great. Yes. So my background is in engineering. I did my mechanical engineering in Mumbai, worked in Infosys for a couple of years in Bangalore, Mysore, then came to Stanford to do design, and went from a technical background to a human side, the innovation side more. So I've been working with teams, with startups, with corporate development teams a lot. And as part of our work, we worked with Ahmedabad University to establish Venture Studio. So my role there was, I was the founding co-director from 2010 to, I think, 2014. And 2014 to 2016, we had transitioned it to local leadership. So my role there was to create this kind of an innovation environment. To take some of these principles and models that we have seen work here in Silicon Valley, in Stanford, and really seed them in the Ahmedabad culture and really figure out which of these work and which of these don't work, and how do we tweak them, to respect local values and beliefs, but also take advantage of the opportunities and the way people think and the way they behave. So we were quite successful in doing that over the 5 years that we worked with them. But at the same time, it was also interesting to see there was also constant tension between Rainforest and the plantation mindset. People who were wanting to have the incubator be measured in terms of how many ventures you're creating, how many people get in, how many people get out. That's a typical plantation mindset. The Rainforest mindset doesn't measure things the same way. It measures things in terms of transformation stories, and it measures not the number but the effect. So there are some of these things. We worked with startups. We worked with mainly young entrepreneurs or mid-career entrepreneurs who did a number of companies in healthcare, education, and so on and so forth. One of the things we realized we did not do well was to work with local businesses, existing small and medium enterprises, family businesses, existing corporations. And if we were to do Venture Studio once more, we would actually work with the existing economic engines in the given region as well. I am not currently part of Venture Studio. I am not associated with it since 2016. But since then, I have worked a lot with startups here as well as with companies globally.
Yeah. Thank you, Neeraj sir, for your giving a detailed introduction and what you have done and what you're not. So it was great time here listening to you and understanding the concept. As we are ending now, I'll hand over the session to Anay sir for a small vote of thanks. Anay sir, over to you.
Thank you, Faizia. Neeraj, let me get a little bit of an extension of 2016 because that was the year that we practically spent a couple of months together.
Yes.
And it was fun. So 2016 was a time that I spent a lot of time with Neeraj and learned a lot. And a lot of those things, a lot of those ideas, a lot of those innovation infrastructure and the discussions that we had is what the continue happened at PDPU IIC. And we are doing some interesting stuff over here, trying to build a small rainforest over here
Great.
another setup.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. It's an honor and a privilege to have you and collaborate with you and have discussions with you. Looking forward for further more interactions, discussions, collaborations in times to come. Yes, probably we would have had our discussions about local ecosystems and local SMEs since 2016, and being somebody who is a local SME myself, so how even after having premier institutions funded by government, this kind of sector has been little set out, left out with the cutting edge of innovation, cutting edge of scaling technologies that is available. And that is what we endeavor to do over here. And this is our, testing the waters as this institution, so to say. We thank you for coming. We thank you for all the inputs. We thank all the participants, and looking forward for working with you for time.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anay and Faizyab and the whole team for having me here. And it was a great pleasure. And, it was also a lot of fun to hear from your participants, hear their questions and what kind of businesses they're doing. So I learned a lot. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thanks.
IIC, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Neeraj sir, for everything, for giving your time, investing your time with us. And we look forward to many more such opportunities to collaborate with you.
Sounds good.
Just,
Thank you.
Yeah.